Okay. Hello, hello. See, we got JD in the chat and Philip. How you doing, gentlemen? Um, as always, just gonna let the chat fill up for a little bit, but seeing as there are a couple of you already, probably won't have to wait too long. Um, yeah. How you doing, fellas? It's been a little while. Uh, I checked my YouTube studio earlier, and I saw that I hadn't uploaded anything for I think 11 days, and I like to tend to things. So yeah, today we're just going to be talking uh, pretty much whatever you guys want to talk about, as always. But I want to talk about this Canelo situation, who he's going to be fighting. Um, One thing that's been on my mind as well is AJ versus Ngannou. Obviously, it's just about just under 2 weeks away, and I feel like my perception of that one is kind of changing just a little bit. But yeah, more than anything, it's just a chance for me to chill out with you guys. A quiet Saturday, and yeah, hopefully we have a laugh. So JD says Canelo is going to fight Jamal Charlo because he knows it will be an easy money fight, and Jamal won't try his best like his twin brother. Well, it's interesting you say that. Let's start off with that. Um, because the last video I did 11 days ago was about that announcement that Canelo would be fighting Jamal. Because I um I think I saw, might have been IFL or something, they uploaded to their community tab that the fight had been announced. And I was like, oh, okay. And I Googled it, and then all these different outlets were coming with the same headline that Canelo's going to be fighting Jamal Charlo May 4th, or May 5th. I think it's May 4th. But all of a sudden, I think Charlo came out on Twitter or something, said it's not happening. And it's just bizarre. Like, what the hell's going on? Because it looked like it was, at least if you looked at the headlines, you'd think it was going to happen. A couple of days later, there's that. And all of a sudden, Canelo's saying, oh, I'm going to fight someone. Um, and there was that massive uh, news announcement I think he made on Azteca about his TV deal. And everyone's thinking, oh, who's it going to be? Is he going to be announcing his fight in Crawford? Is it going to be Charlo? Is it going to be Benavidez? It's all over the shop. It's really weird. We got Mike. He says, afternoon, mate. Hope all is well. Yeah, I'm all good here, man. Hope you're doing well as well. Terrible vibes from Canelo, right? His team talking about great fights that never happened for some reason. Since that loss to Bivol, I think Canelo is on the downs. Well, it's one thing I was thinking about is, since this whole thing has started to unravel, a lot of people have kind of turned on Canelo. And it's not that simple, because you can't take away from what Canelo has done, because he's done a lot in his career. He does deserve credit. But as I said in that video reacting to the quote unquote announcement, there are quite a few controversies still present in Canelo's career, and this is definitely one of them. Like, why isn't this Benavidez fight happening? As far as I can see, as an outside looking in, as we all are, there's absolutely no reason uh, that this fight shouldn't happen, other than seemingly Canelo just not wanting it. And then you have to ask the questions: why doesn't he want it? Um, and he's come out in the past talking about how he doesn't want to fight another Mexican. That's nonsense, because he's done that plenty of times in his career, as recently as a few years ago before the Gennady Golovkin fight. Do you remember when he fought Chavez Jr.? And that was a gimme fight, and that was basically an excuse for him to promote the Golovkin fight later in the year. So Canelo's never had any issues fighting a Mexican when it serves him, but it seems like and even then, like, Benavidez is, I believe, technically Mexican American, because I think he was born in America, but obviously of Mexican heritage, if you want to be, particular about it. Um, I think Canelo is a competitor through and through. Um, and I think that comes at a cost because at this stage of his career where he's got all the money he could ever wish for, he's set his family up for generations, but he cares about winning. And because he cares so much about winning, the thought of losing really it probably it probably takes him back to when he lost to Bivol, when he lost to Mayweather, and it probably really stings. And so I'm just guessing, I'm just speculating. Um, I don't think he probably senses that there's a a big likelihood that he loses to Benavidez, and I don't think he can accept that. And rather than testing himself like he's done previously, he's trying to manage his way and take on good fights, but not the fights. Not the fights that are really going to uh, you know contribute massively to his legacy. Like when he took on Bivol, I was like, damn, that's serious. But then when you think about it, did Canelo take that fight because he felt like he had some kind of plausible deniability, or he had a bit of an excuse, like, oh, if I lose this fight, I don't want to lose this fight, but if I do, it's to Bivol, who not only is a bigger man, but he's seen as number one or number two at light heavyweight. Whereas with Benavidez is much. Well, I know some people say he's a weight bully and that kind of thing, but he's not a career light heavyweight. So if Canelo loses to him fair and square, there's no wiggle room. It's like, okay, Benavidez is better than you. And don't underestimate, like, when you have a reputation and you're a competitor, it gets to a point where you'll just do anything to protect that reputation. Um, but as I say, I don't know. I'm not in Canelo's head. I don't know what his thought process is, and I'm not excusing it either. Like, I have no problem if Canelo's ducking him, I'll say it, and I think he is ducking him. Let's be real. Canelo, as Mike says, like, you got to give him credit, but Canelo, all we have to do is look back at the Golovkin saga. That fight got strung along for a long time, and Canelo, he was no stranger to swerving Golovkin, so it's not like it's unheard of for him. But J7 says Charlo came out drunk saying it's not happening. Wouldn't surprise me, to be fair. I know he was on Twitter, but the Charlos are particularly Jamal, but they're just strange. These guys really, really kind of all over the shop, for lack of a better term. Philip says, if Benavidez versus Gvozdyk is going to happen, how does it make you look at Canelo right now? Well, um, you know what? This whole thing, as a kind of just in a very long-winded fashion said, I don't like it from Canelo. I think it stinks. And, you know, we factor in what you did before, previously in his career. Okay, that's good. You get credit for it. But that's then, and this is now. And if right now you're not fighting the guy you're supposed to fight, it's it's not good enough. And one thing, and I know Hatman touched on this not long ago, and I'm glad he did because it was something that was really getting under my skin as well. And when you get these boxing fans, or they're not boxing fans, they're more so fanboys. But you get like your average scrub in the YouTube comments, but also guys, uh, like Gareth A. Davis and stuff like that, and they say, "Oh, like Tyson Fury, for example, say, oh, he can do what he wants. He's earned the right to fight who he wants." People do the same with Canelo. Oh, look what Canelo's done in his career. He's earned the right to fight whoever he wants and take whatever opportunity. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, if both of these guys, like Canelo and Tyson Fury, because they're the ones who quite commonly get this treatment of, oh, he's earned the right to do what he wants. Well, Fury's got the WBC and Canelo is undisputed. Don't hold up the division. If you want to go and do what you want, hand over the belts, vacate them so the division can move on, and then have your little easy touches or your sideshow fights parallel to the rest of the division. It really grinds my gears. There are ideas that fanboys have or people who just don't know any better, and they run these ideas like it's legit, and it's like it's not. That is silly. Like you're actually being a sucker when you say stuff like that. Um, Canelo hasn't earned the right to do whatever he wants. He's a champion. He has an obligation to defend his titles, and if that's against Benavidez, then it's against Benavidez. He has to do it. Same thing with Tyson Fury, and obviously that links to the Ngannou fight, which we'll touch on. Um, but uh, that Benavidez Gvozdek fight, I actually quite like it. To be fair, I'd much rather see Benavidez versus Canelo, but I can't grumble too much because some of you guys might know that Gvozdek, I really like him as a fighter. I think he's on his day, he is legit. Like he is super talented, great technician, very good all round fighter, and I don't mind seeing that fight. Credit to Benavidez if he takes this because he could kind of he can have a bit of a sulk. He could be, oh, Canelo's not giving me my chance, so I'm gonna put my foot down and I'm just gonna stand here and wait. Or he could be like, okay, I'm not getting any younger. Time is of the essence in boxing. And if he wants to step up to light heavy and fight Gvozdek, I've got to give him a round of applause for that because he could lose that fight. I do favour Benavidez if we're talking early predictions. I think if I envisage it, based on the styles of both guys, I think it might be a workmanlike performance from Benavidez where he doesn't look particularly great, but maybe is able to get Gvozdek out of there. Because, yeah, Gvozdek was out of the ring for a while. He's only had 3 fights since he's been back. But in those 3 fights, he's looked pretty good, and he looks aesthetically in shape. So I think and of course, even during his hiatus, he was still sparring with the likes of Canelo. Um, so this is a boxing man through and through, and he looks like he's stayed in good condition. And he's a good technician. I don't think Benavidez is going to have much of a size advantage. So it'd be a good kind of measuring stick is, if Benavidez is going to move up to light heavy, how's he going to deal with it? So, yeah, Benavidez versus Gvozdek, I think it's been spoken about for June. Bring it on. It's a little bit of a while away, though. I've noticed that when it comes to PBC fighters and when PBC announce fights, you're always having to wait like 5-6 months sometimes. Whereas other promotions, it's like, oh yeah, the fight's going to happen in 2.5 months or 3 months top, something like that. But PBC, man, they long it out. But hopefully that fight happens. If the Canelo fight's not going to happen, then Benavidez versus Gvozdek, I'm happy to see it. Also, as well, because I wouldn't want to see Benavidez leapfrog his way to a title shot at light heavyweight because I don't think he deserves that, and it wouldn't really happen anyway because the Bivol Beterbiev fight is it's locked in apparently. But yeah, Benavidez versus Gvozdek, I like it. There's a rationale behind it. Mike says 100% you have to give Canelo credit, but Canelo is in the position like Mayweather in that he can fight anyone he wants. Nobody's going to say no. If the fight doesn't happen, it's down to Canelo. Yeah, fair enough. I don't think you can really disagree with that. JD says a lot of boxing viewers, not fans. Yeah, good point. If you're a boxing fan, you want to see the fights that basically keep boxing alive, and that's supposed to happen. So good point. When it comes to the fights they want to see, yeah. That's it. It's the fanboys. It's the people who don't care about boxing. They want to see. They want to see their favorite win. That is as simple as that. And so they'll give them any kind of excuse, any kind of pass. Eddie Reynoso said they never received $55 million offer, and if that's true, why are they not asking for a fight? There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. You never really know. I did see the headlines for that, but I didn't look into it because maybe I'm not doing my due diligence. But I was just thinking, if Canelo doesn't want to fight, the fight's not going to happen. Let's be real. I know that seems a bit of a black pilled view, but it's really just it comes down to a matter of if Canelo wants it, Canelo gets it. If he doesn't want it, then the WBC is going to give him carte blanche to avoid it. Like, I don't need to say this to you guys. You're all pretty switched on, but the WBC and Mauricio Sullivan, like, it's just despicable. Like, it's just like, how crooked can you be? Um, and it's as simple as that. So, as I say, maybe I'm being a bit short sighted here, but I'm not really going into the details just because if Canelo doesn't want it, nobody's going to make him do it, and it won't happen. Philip asks, "What are my thoughts on Taylor Catterall rematch and the press conferences they both had?" Um, my first thought on it is it's about a year and a half too late because the first fight was like just over 2 years ago, wasn't it? That was February 2022, and there was just this massive long wait for the rematch. And to be honest, I don't really care by this point. It's just taken so long to get over the line. 2 years. They had their first fight in February of 2022. They should have made the rematch for summer of 2022. They should have, strike while the iron's hot. But no, it's just like old news now. Taylor's lost. Jack Catterall's gone the distance with an ancient Jorge Linares. I don't really care, to be honest. And I know there's like bad blood and stuff like that, but I've seen that kind of thing so many times. It doesn't really interest me. Um, Taylor and Catterall, I don't even think you can really say that they're the best in their weight classes either. So it's a cool kind of domestic scrap, but eh. And then obviously the press conference antics, same thing. I shrug. Um, it is what it is. I'll probably tune in. Don't get me wrong, but I can't say I'm counting down the days. Nah, the fight has just lost its allure for me. Um, Mike, no, I didn't. I didn't watch him fight. I don't think I ever have watched him fight. I don't barely recognize the name, to be honest. I've got to be honest, guys. Boxing has not been in the forefront of my mind recently. Uh, I struggle to make time to actually do videos at this point, but I'm kind of like I'm staying up to date with kind of like the surface level news. Um, boxing, boxing has like peaks and troughs, and I think we're in a bit of a trough right now. Not that it's all bad, but it's just a bit of a chore sometimes. Like to think last weekend we were supposed to have Fury versus Usyk, and it's just I don't know. Boxing fans just get slapped around so much, um, and on top of that, I'm just genuinely busy in like day to day life. But no, Mike, to answer your question, haven't seen him, and therefore I can't make an assessment. JD, is there part of you that thinks Fury is washed? I can't stop thinking about how awful he looked against Ngannou. The abuses, yeah, exactly. JD, I've been saying this for a long time. You can probably actually find one of my videos from the lead up to the Dylan White fight, which is, nearly 2 years ago. When I was saying like Fury looks done in terms of you're not going to get the best Fury again. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to lose all of his fights. No, he'll probably still win and look half decent. But once again, the Fury fanboys, they believe that Tyson Fury can turn water into wine, and he's just, you know, absolutely he's invincible. And now, don't get me wrong, the Tyson Fury Roadshow has been entertaining, but it's also been incredibly frustrating. And it's not about hating Tyson Fury. It's not about loving Alexander Usyk or whatever. No, it's not about that. It's just about making an objective assessment. And it's so clear to see that Tyson Fury isn't what he once was. And you shouldn't really be surprised because, as you say, JD, the stuff that he's put his body through, like Tyson Fury, it's not like, oh, he was really, he was on the straight and narrow. Then he had a bit of a rough patch in his career. That's not the case. Tyson Fury has been up and down like a yo-yo from day one. And he's got an immense amount of natural talent, which has helped to keep him afloat. But how many times can he rely on that? And I honestly do think this. I think win, lose, or draw, Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk will be Tyson Fury's last fight. I don't see Fury going on for hardly any time at all. And that being said, leading up to the proposed date, which was supposed to have last weekend, I was picking Alexander Usyk to win, and fairly confidently. After this, I'm this certain, and I know that sounds crazy, but I look at it stylistically, and I look at it in terms of the kind of peripheral stuff. Fury's condition, Fury's mindset. Um, like Fury. I think it's the end. I just think it's the end, and I could be wrong. And I've said from the beginning, if I'm wrong and Tyson Fury legitimately, fairly beats Alexander Usyk, I'll be the first person to give him credit, because that's all I'm interested in, is a fair fight where the right man wins. I don't get caught up in, oh, I like this guy. No, I'm not interested. Whoever wins, if they win fairly, they get credit. It's that simple. But I just don't see Fury winning. I've got to be honest. Um, Taylor looked like an alcoholic at the Taylor. I think. Yeah, Taylor's. He's a bit all over the shop as well. I think, because I think that's the thing. Like Taylor, he's a fiery guy. He's a competitor himself, and I think Jack Catterall really gets under his skin. But yeah, Taylor's. I mean, I don't know what he does in his personal life. To be honest, I don't really care. Um, but interesting psychological dynamic, I suppose, because Taylor, he must be feeling a bit kind of down and out. A few years ago, he was on top of the world as undisputed champion. Since then, um, took a bit of a shellacking from Catterall in the first fight. I actually thought Catterall won. Um, Lost to Teofimo Lopez. Now he's going in against Catterall. Like he's going to be backed up against it. So I would be surprised if he's trying to drown his sorrows a little bit. On fight week, I'll be interested in Taylor Catterall 2 during fight week. Certainly catch it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd probably be all right. Could be a bit of a spectacle. Hopefully, it's not a complete dud. Thoughts on Mauricio Suleiman wanting 5 judges for the Fury versus Usyk fight? Did I even hear that? Yeah, I heard that. He wants 5 judges and VAR, doesn't he? Well, the VAR stuff, I don't have. I like the idea of it. I'm not necessarily saying, oh yeah, bring it in, but at the same time, I'd be willing to hear the rationale for it. My only kind of question about that is how they implement it. VAR, it takes time to review, doesn't it? So how are you going to get those reviews in? Is it going to be in between rounds? Are you going to stop the action? But then it's like that would break up the flow of the fight. So I'm neither for or against. I just want to hear how it'd be implemented. Regarding more judges, I'm not. No, I can't say that sits well with me, because we already have 3 judges in boxing, and that hasn't really done much in terms of weeding out corrupt judges. So like you can, it seems like these days, the corruption in boxing is quite prevalent. Um, and that's with 3 judges. If you bring in 5, aren't you just gonna increase the likelihood of having 4 corrupt judges and 1 neutral, or 5 corrupt judges and none of them neutral? I don't know. Maybe that's overly pessimistic, but that wouldn't fill me with confidence. Let's just say, if okay, we're gonna have 5 judges. All right, what if they're all just paid off? Doesn't really make a difference. So I can't say I can get behind that, to be honest. It doesn't really mean much to me. I can appreciate the sentiment. Mauricio Suleiman saying, "Oh yeah, we want to make it as fair as possible." I mean, good. You should anyway. And obviously, actions speak louder than words. So we'll see. But I kind of shrug my shoulders at it. I'm not. It doesn't make me think, "Oh, wow, we're definitely going to get some fair officiating." Then, um, because like when it comes to corruption as well, boxing is one of those sports where it's so like egregious sometimes, the corruption. Like, I know it's slightly different, but if you want to talk about refereeing, Tony Weeks should be struck off. He shouldn't be allowed to referee fights. The man is terrible, absolutely scandalous, but yet it happens. And a lot of the time it just gets brushed over, like, oh yeah, there'll be a few weeks of outrage and then yeah, nothing. Um, Cloud Strife says AJ wins 100%. Is that against Ngannou? JD says, if you remember Fury versus Ngannou launch presser, Fury easily weighed over 300 pounds when he took his shirt off during the face-off. Yeah. See, that's a good point, actually, because I noticed that when I saw pictures from that launch presser, I was thinking, nah, um, Fury looks as fat as a house. He's not taking this seriously. And I know it's like hindsight's 2020, blah blah blah. But the only reason why I didn't do a video on that saying like Fury looks terrible was because I was boycotting it. I didn't want to give the fight any attention. You guys will probably remember me saying that because I just couldn't. How is Fury going to fight in Ngannou rather than Alexander Usyk? It's just nah. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Fury looked terrible. Um, Like everybody, just to go back to that, everybody talks about, oh, but Fury, say in the second Wilder fight, yeah, the second Wilder fight, yeah, he looked great, but that was 4 years ago, and you're assuming that he can even get back to then because that was what February 2020. Then they didn't fight. Fury didn't fight again until October 2021 against uh, in the trilogy fight, and even then he looked terrible. And then against Dylan White, Fury didn't really put a foot wrong. That was a good performance by him. But Dylan White stylistically was clearly a very favourable matchup for Fury. And that's not Fury's fault because I gave Fury credit for taking the fight because I was like, Dylan White is he could be dangerous, but Fury diffused him. But then not every fighter is going to be Dylan White. Not every fighter is going to be Derek Chisora. But moral of it is Tyson Fury hasn't looked good for 4 years. And all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that he's going to look fantastic against Alexander Usyk. That being said, I do think Fury, um, I think this Alexander Usyk fight will bring the best out of Fury. I think it will be the best version that we've seen of him for a while, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be as good as Tyson Fury's last peak, which was against Deontay Wilder in the second fight. Philip asks who that's supposed to be in the thumbnail. So that is Chucky, as JD says, but don't you think it looks like Canelo? It looks like Canelo a little bit. So yeah, I just thought I'd use that. It's something that I saw on Instagram. It made me laugh. So I like to do like silly stuff. If it makes me laugh, it's good enough. You don't have to understand it. Philip Answer says, what's your stance on Conor Benn right now? Conor Benn is a knob. I think he's a really good fighter. I was really starting to get behind Conor Benn. I liked the matchmaking. I liked the development, but I think he's an idiot. And the way him and Eddie Hearn have dealt with this whole situation has just been scandalous. It's been disrespectful to boxing fans. And I just like Conor Benn, unless you're prepared to make a statement. And when I say make a statement, I don't mean verbally, I mean with action and provide evidence, provide this, because they're always talking about evidence, always talking about, oh, I've been exonerated because of the evidence. No, what evidence is it? Like all these, was it 30-page documents? Okay, what's actually in it? Like, come on, like cough up. But it's none of that. It's, oh, I'm innocent, and I'm clear to fight. Clear to fight where? Because you're not fighting in the UK. I think it's quite clear to see, and this is just speculation, I guess, because I don't want to open myself up to any legal action. But if Conor Ben was allowed, if he was able to fight in the UK, then this is exactly what he'd be doing. But he isn't. He's fighting out in the States. So what does that say? And, fighting against obscure opposition like Peter Dobson, who, is not a scrub, he's got some ability, but Conor Ben, I don't even think at this point, like, does Eddie Hearn even believe in Conor Ben? Because it seems like he's just trying to cash him out all the time. So, but it's a shame because, as I say, I was starting to get behind Conor Ben in the sense that I like the way he's developing, I like the direction he was going in. But ever since that Eubank Jr. fight was proposed, I was like, nah, this is weird. It's weird, and it's just been a downward spiral since then. Uh, Darren says, in my opinion, open scoring after each round will rid the judges' corruption, or at least show which ones are dodgy. Yeah, potentially. Because by the end of the fight, they kind of announce the scorecards, and you can kind of, any judges who are a bit corrupt, a bit unscrupulous, they can scurry off as the results being announced. So yeah, maybe. I think it's not as simple as, oh, this will work, this will solve this problem, but it's worth experimenting, you know. But then you have to say it's difficult to pin down because even judges who have maybe been corrupt, quote unquote, before, and there's definitely something fishy going on. It's not like it's all the time, so it can be difficult to pin down. In the grand scheme of things, you can look back over many years and think, okay, this person, this one judge in particular, is like has a track record of being a bit fishy, but it's difficult in the moment to pin down, or it can be. Andre says Anthony Joshua beats Ngannou. Well, he really can't afford to lose. Let's be real. So he has to beat Ngannou. Deontay Wilder versus Joe Parker 2 should happen. I don't think so. I don't think so. I would want to see Wilder versus Parker 2. Wilder was so disappointing. So disappointing. And a lot of that is to Joe Parker's credit. The way he fought was brilliant. He didn't really put a foot wrong. Schooling, if you ask me. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see that again. In the moment, it was kind of entertaining because it was tense. You think, oh, Parker's doing so well, but will it all come undone? And it didn't. And it was like, oh. I remember after that Day of Reckoning card, I kind of had like adrenaline dump afterwards because there were so many fights that were, had a lot of action. By the end of it, I remember watching AJ versus Varlene, and I was just kind of like, I was conking out, man. It'd been a long day of just ups and downs and ups and downs. JD says, do you remember the stoppage in the Macronelli Mackenzie fight? I don't. I probably have seen it, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. They're talking about Anthony Joshua. Yeah, I don't even want to see that. I think I'd rather watch AJ versus Parker 2 than Wilder versus Parker 2, but I'd rather not see either. Yeah. Jordan Perry says, I've got a sneaky feeling Ngannou will KO Joshua. Really? That's interesting because I remember when the fight was first announced, a lot of people were saying, oh, Joshua's going to do him in. Joshua's going to do what Fury should have. A lot of people saying that. looking in the comments, everyone, Joshua's going to win, and Ngannou hasn't got a chance, blah, 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 blah. But the closer it gets, I've seen people, the general consensus is it's almost like 50-50. Like some people are saying Ngannou's going to win, other people saying Joshua's going to win. So, um, I don't know. Like Jordan, okay, state your case. Why do you think it is? I'm not saying like I disagree or agree. I just want you to say, state your rationale because it would definitely be interesting. Um, AJ could jab Ngannou's head off for 10 rounds if you wanted to. I think AJ will get Ngannou out there around 7-9. Yes, Ngannou has taken big shots in 4-ounce gloves, but AJ should tire Ngannou out. Okay, interesting. JD says outmatch, rate AJ's chin. I'd say he's got bang average chin. A lot of dorks say AJ's chinny, but if he had a glass chin, Klitschko would have KO'd AJ. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think AJ, I don't think his chin's terrible because, as you said, like if you look at the punches that, or some of the punches that AJ's taken in his career, if he was chinny, wouldn't he be out cold? Because say he took a big old left hook from Dylan White, and yeah, it wasn't a prime Dylan White, but that's still Dylan White's money punch, and AJ took it and stayed on his feet, and yeah, he got buzzed, but he was still there. He covered up. He got out of the way of the subsequent shots. Um, then against Klitschko, like let's not sell it short. Klitschko, even Tyson Fury himself. I remember in the lead up to the Fury Klitschko fight back in 2015. Even Fury himself, because he was never that complimentary of Klitschko. He was always saying, "Oh, he's he's just another bare bum in the show. Like he's just a man, that kind of thing." And I'm sure he believed it. But even he admitted Klitschko. He was talking about the Pulev's performance against Klitschko. He said Pulev stood in front of a man who could knock a wall down. So even he admitted Klitschko's, uh, could you say, an all-time great puncher? Certainly a prolific um, and highly rated puncher because Klitschko was. He had the left hook, he had the right hand, even had the jab. Um, I'm pretty sure he dropped Povetkin with a jab. Um, So Klitschko, he can bang, seriously bang, as well as being like tremendously skilled and athletically gifted. And you see that right hand that AJ took, completely decked him. And AJ's on the floor, on the canvas, on his back, smiling, gets up, obviously is out of it for a while, like kind of getting boxed a little bit, but he still won that fight. And I picked AJ to lose that fight. I thought Klitschko was going to knock him out in 5 rounds. But AJ proved me wrong. Um, he's been in there against Povetkin. He got wobbled, and Povetkin is a serious puncher. If you doubt that, mate, you don't know what you're watching. Um, who else? Ruiz, of course. Um, yeah, Ruiz, and obviously Ruiz won by stoppage. But I wouldn't say AJ's chin is bad. I think, yeah, it's average. It's average. But I think what AJ's problem is he takes a long time to recover. And for a long time, he didn't really know how to survive. He was a little bit of a deer in the headlights. And I think he seems to get really groggy and heavy and he just can't move out the way. And that's why in the White fight, it took him a few rounds to get back into it. In the Klitschko fight, it took him a while to get back into it, like 6 rounds. Um, and then in the first Andy Ruiz fight, he never got back into it. So yeah, I'd say he's got an average chin, but it's his powers of recovery. Whereas even with Tyson Fury, like Tyson Fury, I don't think has an iron jaw at all. Like that's what people talk about. Tyson Fury, he's taken punches off like Wilder and stuff. And yeah, he has. But if Tyson Fury had an iron chin, wouldn't he stay on his feet? But he doesn't. But I think with Fury, his chin is probably above average. Nothing special, but it's above average. But it's his powers of recovery that are absolutely exceptional. Because Tyson Fury, he can stay with it. You know, he can shake it off. You really have to. I think if you're going to stop Tyson Fury, you have to just lay into him and like you have to force him out of the fight. You can't one punch him because yeah, you might knock him down, but he gets back up, and he's got really good instincts, so he can kind of limit the damage. He can move. You know, he ducks, he dives, he rolls. It's quite slippery. Um, but yeah, bit of a long-winded way of saying it. Um, a lot of people are getting carried away with Ngannou's success against Fury. Fury didn't train for that fight. Yeah, and then you get people who say, "Oh, but don't take away credit from Ngannou." You could see Fury wasn't in condition, and he probably thought he was just going to bowl Ngannou over. Um, I think it's quite clear. Reason I say is because yeah, Ngannou hasn't got the boxing ability, but he's got very good timing and toughness. I can't see a world where AJ can box for 10 rounds without getting caught. Maybe, maybe. One thing that's definitely I have started to pay a bit more attention to is that I think there is a bit of pressure on AJ because even when you're supposed to beat someone, that doesn't necessarily always fill you with confidence because sometimes you can think, you know, I can't afford to put a foot wrong. So there's no room for error, and sometimes that can mess with your mind a little bit, you know. Um, so that being said, I thought AJ looked quite confident in the well since the fight has been announced. He looks like he's slowly but surely getting his confidence back. So I do think he will win, but that is definitely a dynamic I haven't seen many people talk about is the potential pressure that's on him. But that being said, Ngannou doesn't necessarily have the same element of surprise going into this. So it could give AJ that extra level of sharpness because he's saying, or he's thinking, right, I can't take this lightly because if I take it lightly, I could end up like Fury. So I have to be on point. And we know AJ is a professional anyway, more professional than Tyson Fury. Um, yeah, heavyweight boxing, one punch can turn a fight around. Excuse me. Gorgaruga says Ngannou's legit. He arguably beat a world champion in his pro debut. Look, yeah, Ngannou, you got to give him credit. Like he's a fighting man, and you know he's clearly not afraid to take on some of the best in boxing. Although the money that they're probably paying him is astronomical. Like he can't turn it down. Um, but with like styles make fights ultimately. Just because you have a tough fight or you give a tough fight to Tyson Fury doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to do the same thing. Because even when I did a video kind of reacting to the announcement, um, Fury, if you want to say he's a superior fighter to AJ, then fair enough. But you can't say that Fury does everything better than AJ because that's just simply not true. AJ does a lot of things better than Tyson Fury. And so you still have to take it on a case by case basis because yeah, Ngannou put in a good effort against Fury, but he's still unproven. Let's not get twisted. Then look, time will tell. You only got to wait 13 days, but I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, Ngannou arguably beat Fury. We see Fury being better than AJ, therefore Ngannou's going to beat AJ as well. And I'm not saying Gorgaruga that you're saying that, but that seems to be a sentiment that many people hold. Cloud says, I feel chins can actually go pretty fast. Look at Joyce. He was talked about having an iron chin and then got banged. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, in some instances, chins can go pretty fast. Like sometimes all it takes is one fight and a fight is never the same. But in that instance, I don't think Joyce had an iron chin. I think Joyce is tough. I think he's definitely tough. Like he has a better chin than most, but he had been stopped before. And on top of that, I think I think Zhang is a serious puncher. Like he can bang. Like Zhang is that right hook, that left hand, boy. No, I don't think anybody can take those punches. I think he's a serious, serious puncher. Um, and he's accurate as well, and he's sharp. So yeah, when you look at Joe Joyce's pro career, he fought punchers. You know, like Ian Lewison in his first fight. Ian Lewison was a decent amateur, but always out of shape. But he could bang. Same thing with Berman Stavern, puncher. But these guys didn't have the delivery, you know. And then there were some lower tier punches, and Joe Joyce was able to take it. And he took Daniel Dubois' best punches as well. So Joyce is tough, but he came across a guy who was just as big as him, powerful and skilled. So he had a way of delivering his power. And you know, boxing is well, heavyweight boxing is dangerous, very dangerous. Um, oh, sending that. Got X Dawn X7. Oh, Dark Dawn X7. Hi, Outmatch. If you would be Usyk's head coach, how would you approach the fight? Greetings. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my friend. Interesting question. I've been thinking about this because I'm wondering how the fight unfolds. Should we get it? Hopefully, we do. I think I've said that if Usyk approaches, or we get the same version of Usyk against Fury that we did against AJ in the first fight, I think that's a very difficult night's work for Tyson Fury. Um, because because Usyk, he's got a lot of moving parts. He moves his head, he moves his hands, he moves his feet, and he's going to need to do that. But I think particularly early on, he'll need to stick it on Fury in the sense where he'll have to, I reckon, take the center of the ring and try land that left hand, particularly. Um, like in the first AJ fight, you see in the first few seconds, um, Usyk was already able to get his head on the outside of AJ's jab and split the jab with his left hand. I think Usyk will have to do something similar. And I imagine he probably can because, yeah, AJ's a bit robotic. He's not as slick, quote unquote, as Tyson Fury, but he's a bit more precise. Fury's a bit gangly, he's a bit uncoordinated, relatively speaking. And so I think Usyk will have to kind of punch in between Fury because you have to imagine that the trajectories of their punches is going to be, quite different. I think Usyk will be able to do that. Um, I think he'll get to a point where Fury probably gets a bit frustrated, and then he's probably going to try and close down the distance, try and smother Alexander Usyk. Now, I don't think Usyk should try and outmuscle him. I think that would be silly. I think what Usyk should try and do is just be slippery. So if Fury's trying to like grab him, he's trying to hold him, he should be a little bit compliant so he can kind of slip out of it. See what I mean? Like almost a little bit of a bull and matador type thing. But I think Usyk has to be. He can't do the whole fight like that. I think he's got to be aggressive enough so that he can actually get Tyson Fury's respect, and frustrate Tyson Fury so that Fury gets desperate, and when he gets desperate, he counters him. Very bit vague, but that's how I see it. Um, I don't think Fury can just do a back foot job the whole time. I think he will have to press, and it'd be in his best interest to. You have to show like, yeah, I'm a smaller man, but I'll still piece you up. And I think he probably can do that. Like, yeah, Usyk, he can get a little bit ragged under pressure. Like we saw that against Derek Chisora. But I think Derek Chisora, even though he's not a great fighter, he can be difficult to pin down because he crabs up pretty well. And it can be frustrating to throw a lot of punches on a guy who's blocking a lot. Honestly, like when you have a guy in front of you who absorbs a lot of punches just with the arms, with the blocking. You never can really hit him clean. It's difficult to. It kind of demoralizes you a little bit because you're not hitting any of the vulnerable parts. You're just hitting the exterior, but it pays off sometimes. And I think Fury is going to be more open than someone like a Chisora for the most part. I suspect. Jordan asked, "Do I think Boxer will be gone by the end of the year?" I'd be surprised if they weren't, because what does Boxer do these days? It's really a bit of a shambles over there at Sky right now. Ma, 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 ma. Fury was leaning in with his 1-2s against Ngannou, and that helped Ngannou counter Fury. AJ throws a 1-2 in a much more traditional stance. Therefore, I don't see Ngannou countering AJ like that. Yeah, I mean, AJ will still have to be on his P's and Q's, but that's what I mean. It's like AJ has a bit more control over his body. He's feel like he's in position a bit more. And that's part of what makes him a better puncher as well, is because his balance is better. Like Fury can be slick and he kind of goes on the defensive and he's a bit more of a freestyler. But are you always going to be in position? Are you going to be the most effective? Are you going to have that marriage of offense and defense? Or is it just all defense, Campbell Hatton versus Josh Taylor. Right, JD, are you trolling? Because I see afterwards you asked Bivol versus Zhang. Come on, man. Save it for April Fools. That's what I'll say. Have you seen Tank versus Frank Martin's looking likely to happen? Yeah, I saw that. I don't mind it, to be fair. I'd favour Tank to win. Frank Martin's cool. Yeah, he's a good, capable fighter, but I don't know if he's got the experience. I think Tank's a better fighter all around, and I think he's operated at a high level for longer. So yeah, I'd go Tank, but I think it's a good fight. AJ versus Zhang would be a very interesting fight. Zhang would have to close the show around 6 rounds. Doesn't have great stamina. Yeah, see, that's when I first spoke about AJ-Ngannou. I think it was a few days, like a week and a half before it was announced formally. I said I wasn't interested in it. I didn't have a problem with the fight, and I maintain that I don't have a problem with it. But I'd rather see AJ versus Zhang and maybe Ngannou versus Parker. I think that would be a better night, just because. And there were a few people that they had a little bit of a boo boo because I said I wasn't interested in AJ versus Ngannou at the time, and they said, "Oh, well, some people are interested." So and it's like, okay, fair enough, very adult. But then on top of that, some other people were saying, and I get where they're coming from, but I feel like it's kind of a bit short sighted. They said, so outmatch, you're not interested in AJ fighting Ngannou, but were you interested in AJ versus Franklin or AJ versus Hellenius or Varlin? And I understand where they're coming from. However, I think it misses the context of those 3 fights versus Franklin, Hellenius, and Varlin. They were in place so AJ could rehabilitate and get some confidence back. And he came through all of those fights, and particularly with the Varlin fight, just completely destroyed Varlin. Easy work of him. And so, as far as I'm concerned, that rehabilitation phase has finished now after that Varlin fight. And I think it's worked. And so, therefore, I'm ready to see AJ step up. And is Ngannou a step up? I don't know, because he's still kind of unproven. And so that's why I think AJ has got his confidence back now. I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was before, but I think he's definitely heading in the right direction. And for that reason, I'd much rather see him against a proven quantity like Zhilei Zhang. That being said, the closer it gets, and I think it might just be because the Fury Usyk fight fell through, and this is kind of like the next best thing. I don't mind AJ versus Ngannou in the sense of if I wasn't doing anything on that Friday, I'd probably tune in and watch it. Like I wouldn't mind paying for it because the undercard is pretty good too. So, but anyway, long-winded. Yeah, AJ versus Zhang. I'd probably go with AJ ever so slightly, because I think he's got the confidence of where he beat Zhang in the Olympics. And yeah, AJ's stamina's not been great historically, but I think he's learned to pace himself better and he fights quite efficiently now. And I think Zhang would be dangerous early, but I reckon AJ, because AJ's not Joe Joyce. And by many accounts, AJ, when he's say sparred Joe Joyce, they've sparred many rounds. AJ's like he's got so many more gears than Joe Joyce. It's like, and I think that'd be evident if Joshua fought Zhang now. I think AJ has that sharpness that Joe Joyce doesn't. So at a bare minimum, he'd be able to keep up with Zhang, maybe even take him out himself. If the Fury who beat Wilder turns up, feinting, ducking, and dodging, I'm sure he wins. But if we saw the Fury against Ngannou turns up, he loses 100%. Well, which version? Because there are really three versions of Fury who fought Wilder. In the first fight, Fury, he wasn't sharp. He was very light, and he wasn't really, he didn't look strong, but he was still kind of up for the fight. He was quite slippery. Then there was the second fight. The version of Fury was probably the best, where he was heavier, but he looked strong. He looked sturdy, and he looked sharp as well. And he actually looked like fairly decently coordinated as well. Very good condition. And then there was the third fight where he looked strong, but he just looked like he wasn't up for it mentally. So it's like the same person, but three different versions of him against the same opponent. JD Vidal Riley versus Lawal take place at the end of March. I think Riley could stop Lawal based on the fight against Chamberlain. He didn't try it. Yeah, I think that's the smart money, to be honest. Is probably not going to be a dramatic one, but I think Riley will just piece him up, and then Lawal will probably I don't know, get stopped by a corner or something. How much? What do you make of the two forgotten people in boxing at Dylan White and Billy Joe Saunders? To be honest, I don't really care. Billy Joe Saunders, shrug my shoulders. Dylan White, yeah, he's probably not going to. It doesn't look like he's going to have to face any consequence. But if he's not fighting, does it really matter? See what I mean? It's like, so I don't really. I'm not going to keep up with people who aren't interested. Billy Joe Saunders, geezer's a clown. Guy got his eye socket smashed to pieces by Canelo, and so call it a day. So I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't really care. If Dylan White was angling for a fight and he was in the public eye and he was talking rubbish, and I'd be like, wait, you've got to sort out your situation first. But he's not. It's radio silence. Would Campbell Hatton even win an area title? I think that would be his ceiling. I think he could, but I don't think he'd go any further than that. Usyk would have a terrible style for Ngannou, wouldn't he? Ngannou's feet are very slow, and their work rates are completely opposite to each other. Can't say I've thought about that. I'll get back to you on that one. Serious question: Hellenius versus Ngannou. Probably Ngannou. Hellenius is a glass cannon. He can punch, but he's got a chin like wet tissue. Ngannou has an 85-inch reach. AJ has 83. Some guy said online that AJ gets KO'd because Ngannou has a longer reach. It doesn't. JD, people say stuff like that, like, "Oh, this guy's got really long arms, therefore he's going to win. This guy's really tall, therefore he's going to win. This guy has a better physique, therefore he's going to win." Like, people say stupidness. Um, yeah, Ngannou is a very big man. Probably, I think it probably is bigger than AJ in terms of frame and, just overall body size, even though the height is somewhat similar. Um, but it doesn't. I don't think it really matters, because sometimes when you're in the ring and you're getting your face punched in, you're not thinking, my long arms have failed me. It doesn't work like that. There's so many other factors. Um, when you see Tank Davis and the skills this kid has, what fights would you make for him and why? Well, I think Tank Davis can go all the way. That's what's frustrating, is because, like, Tank Davis, yeah, he's fought some good fighters, but he's not fighting the best. And I think he's up there, like, against Shakur Stevenson, against Devin Haney. I think Tank's got like a real good chance, and stylistically, he's my favorite out of all of them. I really like Tank Davis's style. Um, but yeah, it would be those fights, Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, because I think he can beat them. There was always, you know, back in 2017, I never thought that Tank could beat Lomachenko though, and that's when they were both at super featherweight. I never thought that. I just didn't think that stylistically that would be a good fight. He'd probably have a puncher's chance, but Lomachenko, I didn't think Tank was ready for him. Maybe now it'd be a different story because Tank is bigger. I don't think he's as tall as Lomachenko. Even though Lomachenko's, you know, he's not very tall himself, but Tank Davis really is just a garden gnome. Um, I think now he'd have a better chance, but as I say, that's what's frustrating about Tank, because I think he can beat all these guys. Not necessarily guaranteed, but I think he's got a good chance. But got to make the fight happen. Sign on the dotted line. I wouldn't even be surprised if Tank Davis beat Conor Benn as well. I think he'd probably beat him. Francis is a monster. I'm wondering if he'll actually get knocked out or not. I think that's a toss-up, really. I can see Joshua stopping him, but I could also see Francis going to points. He might just be super, super tough and be able to take even Joshua's punches. I don't know. But we don't have to wait too much longer. Only 13 days. But anyway, chaps, we go for an hour. And it's actually flown by. So I've had a good time. Good chat, as always. But I'm going to call it a day here. I did aim to go for an hour, so I think we're on point with that. Anyway, fellas, thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your weekends, and I'll chat to you soon. But till then, have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.